Welcome to Global War 1939. Just finished off round 5. So let's take a look. Right. So for the Germans, Barbarossa did commence. Just like the previous games, this Barbarossa was very uneventful, as Russia normally lets the Germany enter the first row of territories unopposed to negate Germany's special ability. Basically, Germany would get +1 on all their attacks. Russia would get -1. So that is not a battle you want to engage in. You want to avoid that as much as you can. So Germany did march into western Ukraine, Crimea, this territory here, and they did capture the third Finland territory. So they did liberate that. Baltic states, and the rest of Poland. So very standard opening Barbarossa. They do have their bulk of their army in card 9, which consists of 25 infantry, 3 SS infantry. Right now they got 6 SS mechanized, 5 regular mechanized, 9 artillery, 3 heavy artillery, 6 Mark IVs, and 15 medium tanks. They do have their 16th here, and then they're going to be followed up by a couple more Mark IVs, a couple more SS mechanized, some more artillery, infantry, and another medium armor. Now, more likely this Hungary group here is probably going to join up in center. So the plan for these guys, Finland group and the center, probably going to meet up in Leningrad. Leningrad is kind of lightly defended. They only had infantry, as Russia is sending all of their heavier equipment to face off against the German main army. They did pour a little more into Paris. So right now we got a couple of Mark IIIs, or medium tanks, light tanks, artillery, and a handful of infantry. The Italians are moving up infantry to help support the Germans. So the Germans got 3 infantry in each. And Warsaw or Oslo fell. For the Italians, they're prepping up. The surviving units from Gibraltar got ferried over, and they're making a strike against the French Foreign Legion to get these $2 off the British, because right now the UK is up to $50 after their bonuses. So they want to kind of whittle their way down from that a little bit. The Italians are also prepping up their assault into Cairo. So right now in Alexandria, we got what? So they got 11 infantry, 12 infantry, one of their specialized infantry, 2 medium tanks, light tank, a couple fighters, heavy artillery. And they do have 4 transports, so they're going to start funneling all this infantry over, another artillery piece, and they're going to start bringing this over. So the Italians are thinking probably another two more turns to prep, and then the assault. The downside about that is it gives ample time for the British to get 9 more units in here by producing, plus whatever they can ship up through here. So we'll see. They might have to go early, but as long as the Italians outproduce the UK, they should be fine. Italy did activate Iraq in the previous turn. However, Iran and the combined forces of Iranian and the Commonwealth kind of took that over. They did utilize their Air Force to make this happen, which is great for the Commonwealth because now they get a bonus for the Middle East. The rest of South Africa are just shipping up their people, trying to get as much units in Cairo as possible, as this is the doorway for the rest of Africa. Canada, UK, Canada and the UK. The Canadians did land in Oslo. They were kind of worried about the German Air Force counterattacking the Navy. It's kind of a risky battle. Um, I can't see any, if the Germans do attack this, I think both sides would lose greatly. It is easier for the British to replace their Navy than the Germans to replace their entire Air Force. Their veteran fighters can't even be repurchased. So then any fighters you do rebuy will be, I wouldn't say much worse, but they are worse than the veterans. So kind of a toss-up. Not sure what they're going to do. However, this Oslo incursion is not looking great. Canada, the Canadians did come in pretty strong. They got 2 medium tanks, artillery, and a bunch of infantry. So they can. The Canadians are their plan is to move up the rest of Norway and swing down into Finland. So we'll see how that all plays out. Because the Commonwealth want to keep Sweden out of the war, and if Germany holds on to Moscow plus Finland plus Norway, Sweden will join on the Axis side, which their economy doesn't really add much at $3 an extra infantry, but they do add more army to defense of Scandinavia. So Germans got to do something about this because they just lost $11 off their income, which is a pretty big deal, right? The Americans are now in the war. Before this last turn, before the assault into Russia by the Germans, that does give the Americans a $10 bump. So they went from 70 up to 80. They are now officially in the war. And then, so all their production facilities jump from a minor up to a major for free. And their transports get reduced in cost from a 7 to a 6. So they took advantage of that, bought some more transports, got some more paratroopers, heavy artillery, another light tank, and a couple of Marines. They did come down and activate Mexico, and Brazil. So they took down 2 transports with 4 guys and take all 4 territories at once. Brazilians have a standing army of 3 infantry, another transport, and coastal battleship. And then the Americans came down with a submarine, a destroyer, and a torpedo boat destroyer, because the Germans had some navy here. They just didn't want to come down and have a standoff and possibly lose 2 transports if they didn't bring the rest of their fleet down, right? FEC just kind of piling up. They did bring up some troops to help support China. So they brought armor, medium armor, a couple artillery, 3 infantry to help support them. After the last couple turns, China's been very aggressive, which is great, putting the Japanese back on heels. However, China had the bulk of their army in this territory, and as you can see, Japan kind of went in and took them out. So China, just even after just doing their buy, and they bought an artillery and 4 infantry. So after that one battle, they're only left with 3 infantry. So they had to do something drastic. The Americans couldn't really afford the $6 tank for the Chinese, which is unfortunate. The Americans had other priorities that they had to look after. The Americans over here are prepping up for landings. So this is going to take the bulk of their income from now on. However, they are $80 plus the 25 bonus. So sparing 6 for the Chinese is going to be a lot easier without that extra income. So FEC is just bulking up here now, trying to keep the Japanese ally under control, make sure that they don't spread too far. FEC and China are just trying to make it as difficult as possible, as slow as possible, to buy time for the Americans to build a navy to challenge the Japanese navy. And so the Japanese did spur off a couple ships because they're going to challenge this two destroyer, two transport Commonwealth Navy, and then they're just going to spend the rest of their time convoying these boxes and taking $6 off FEC. Japan also did attack the Americans after the Germans went into Russia. Japan, seeing that the Americans hit $80, so they're in the war regardless. So might as well take out these two islands, get an extra $3 income plus their $5 bonus. So these two islands are worth quite a bit of money for the Japanese. For their purchase, they got another Amato, 3 destroyers, and a handful of land ground combat units. They got another medium tank, so that's their only tank they have on the map. And the starting fleet that Japan has after it dealt with the FEC fleet is starting to, after it got repaired, starting to come back. They're going to meet up with the newly constructed fleet from the Japanese and have a square off against the Americans. So that's the fleet up there. So we got 2 carriers, 2 battleships, 4 cruisers, 2 destroyers, and an escort carrier. They're going to meet up with these vessels here. Compared to the last game, I'm pretty sure Japan is probably 2 turns behind compared to where they were last game. So I think that has a lot to do with the Chinese being more aggressive this game than the previous. Last game, they put all their money into infantry. They're getting some artillery. And I did double check. There is no limit on the amount of artillery China can have. But there is a limit on armor. They're only going to have 3, and they're all supplied by the Americans. Right now they got 1, so the Americans could give them another 2. The American fleet here is looking pretty strong. They did put a bulk of their money, pre-war money, into the Pacific, trying to challenge the Japanese as much as possible. But they're back on that old question: do we go Pacific? Do we go Atlantic? Right now, they're prepped up for both sides. They can go either way. The Pacific fleet is looking pretty healthy. And on the Atlantic side, they prepped up enough transports. So this is the turn that the Allies decide which nation do they go after first. We will see. With Japan, it's kind of, I wouldn't say slow. I guess it is slow. There's a lot of island hopping. But the first task is to get rid of the Japanese Navy. Once you get rid of their Navy, then you can spread out your transports instead of having them bulked up together so they don't get picked off and be protected by a large Navy. You can spread them out and have 3 or 4 smaller navies taking 3 or 4 or 5 islands per turn. Once Japan loses all these islands, there's a lot of income that is hard to gain back. So basically, they'll just be on the coastline of mainland Asia, and then lose if it ever gets to a point where all these islands gone. They don't have the money to support the fighting that they need to go against FEC China. If they lose this and the islands, then it's pretty much game over for them. However, by going after Japan first, then you're allowing the Germans, you're basically letting the Russians face the Germans on their own. And Russia cannot defeat the Germans by themselves. They need the American Commonwealth to make landings and open up a second front. That's the only way I can see it, and I went through a bunch of different scenarios. The only way Russia can survive and help the Allies win the war is if the Allies help Russia by making landings in France. So we'll see how it all plays out. But income-wise, right now, the Allies are making more than the Axis. So we'll see. All right, perfect. Well, thank you for watching, and have yourself a great day. Before I do let you go, just give you a quick of the German plan. Ola Kursk is holding both these cards for Russia. So the Russians got a fair amount of armor. So they got 5 medium, 3 KV2s, 3 rockets, 5 artillery, 2 mechanized, 2 heavy artilleries, 5 light tanks. Those are the 5 light tanks that they start the game with, and about 20 infantry. And they get another pile of stuff, more armor, KV2, heavy artilleries. And they got their entire air force in Moscow as well. So the German plan is to Ola Kursk, Moscow, and then the rest of the cities they will clean up after the fact. So we'll see how it goes. The German objective is not only to take out the Soviet Union for the income that it does provide, and it allows them to focus on one side of the continent as opposed to two. Their goal is to activate Spain and activate Sweden. That's their midterm, long-term goals. All right, well, thank you for watching. Have a great day.